Good morning, everyone. I'm Ravi Gupta. I'm editor-in-chief of a magazine called eGov, which is Asia's and India's first and the only magazine on e-governance for last 15 years. Uh, we are part of the Elets Technomedia Private Limited Group, and we publish another magazine on health, which is called eHealth. And today's topic of discussion relates to both governance and also about health. And we also publish a magazine called Banking and Finance, and also a magazine on called Digital Learning, which is on education. And Elets has been getting the ideas on innovations uh, in various sectors, in more than 30 sectors, on various aspects of governance. And today, with us, we have a special guest, and he is Ravendiran. He's an IAS officer of the Maharashtra cadre, and he is the member secretary of Maharashtra Pollution Control Board. Welcome, Ravendiran ji. Thanks for joining us today here. Namaskar too.
Namaskar. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Ravendiran ji, we are going to talk about that. How has the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board been taking some innovative steps in the controlling of pollutions, your monitoring mechanism, your regulatory mechanism, your various, how are you creating awareness about the importance of pollution control, and how has your organization looked at the COVID-19 situation, and has it done any specific studies regarding the pollution changes around these COVID-19 times? So let me start with asking a very basic question, because we are right now live on the Zoom and also on the Facebook. So many of our viewers who are generally who are non-experts but are citizens, and they are all concerned about pollution. So if you can talk about the vision of your department, the mission of your department. Ravendiran ji.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. I think you know that Maharashtra Pollution Control Board is the pioneer board in the country, and it started even before the Central Act came. And it has established the pollution control role in India, basically. Then the national level and other state boards have started. So being the one of the pioneer board and biggest board, we can say, because Maharashtra is a highly industrial state. We deal with almost more than 1 lakh industries and more than 1 lakh constructions projects. So this is the highest quantum of establishment if you compare it entire India. So in that, not only in that economic terms also, Maharashtra is the biggest contributor to the nations. If you look at that, how Maharashtra Pollution Control Board deal with the different kind of situations. See that if you take 3 major roles we have, basically monitoring the pollutions, and after that, how to mitigate it. Third is that suppose in mitigations, if any failure is there, how to bring them under the law. So this is the major 3-pronged strategy which board adopts. If you take monitoring, and you see that Maharashtra is the having largest network of monitoring network in the country. 1/6 of the network systems available in Maharashtra. If I say that 600 COQMs are monitoring stations, we have more than 100 stations in the Maharashtra. And we have 2 different mechanism of monitoring. For example, air, if you take, we have the continuous ambient air quality station as well as the manual stations. And now what actually, though it is insufficient now, if you see that we have only 28 stations of COQMS and almost 70 stations of this one, and state is planning to put up more stations so that the entire Maharashtra is being covered. And with the like COQMS is the main station and the satellite station of manual stations. Apart from that, in recent times, we are taking different technologies how we can actually strengthen the monitoring mechanisms. Because data availability in the public domain is the most important things, because data availability in the public domain brings both transparency and accountability for the board also as well as the polluter also. So the public also will be aware about there's ambient things, and they claim that their ambient is polluted or not polluted. So in that scenario, we have tried with the drones, how drones can be used. Because if you look at the urban scenario, we generally monitor the pollutant level at the meter of 10 meters, 11 meters or 12 meters for ambient air quality. Whereas vertical expansion of the cities, if you see, there is almost across to 100 meters. So people who are living at the 100 meters, what kind of pollutant level are there, or what kind of pollutant mixtures happening, how the weather pattern changes there, and how it influences the health of the people. So what we tried with the drone, can we monitor vertically also, so that the different standard can be brought into the different level of pollutants, and how the mixtures are happening, how the climate and the weather influence the pollutants. That is the one aspect we tried. The second is that the sensor based technologies are coming. The sensor based technologies also we want to introduce, because this is the future technologies. Maybe now it is giving only 50 to 60% results, but still it can be actually research and development can bring more input in that, so that the sensor based technology also we are trying. So this is the how we are strengthening all these systems, or maybe all the databases are connected to online. So we put up a very robust mechanism of collecting data. And finally, we are putting up the artificial intelligence tool to analyze the data. So this artificial intelligent data analysis will give that where the pollution level, what kind of mitigation measures we need, and who are the polluters. These kind of things actually will help us to take our decisions fast as well as the right decisions. This is how the mitigations monitoring things are happening. If you look at the mitigations, we have different kind of strategy basically, because we monitor both ambient as well as the source pollutants. Basically source pollutants basically maybe the industries or maybe urban local bodies, their environmental infrastructures we monitor. So source pollutions, if you look at the industries, and we have the standards for both emissions as well as the discharge of the effluents. So accordingly we measure that, and we have the system of putting up the proper established system by the CPCB or MPCB, and they put up the environmental infrastructure to mitigate it. In that sense, when the industry fails, or then the next level of the legal actions we take at the time of, suppose if you look at the air pollution levels and what the strategy we adopt, how we can push the industry to move to the clean fuels. That's our strategy. And what are the pollutions monitor, or what are the mechanism available, those data is also connected to that. And we have introduced already the modules, online modules, to fill up their standards every day. And also look at the liquid discharge system. There also we have kept an online monitoring station that also can be connected to our the server, so we can monitor the liquid discharge system also. So we get basically the very big databases available with us to this monitor the pollutions as well as the mitigation mechanism. Third important is that the regulatory framework. In case of regulatory framework, board is already have the very good system on e-governance basically. This is the pioneer board which introduced almost 10 years back the concern management completely on online. After that, we thought that we have to improve the not only the concern management, we can go for the auto generation of concerns. If industry feels that I am complying 100% as per the standards of the MPCB, and they can generate their consent automatically, and they can do with the business with that. So when we inspect, or if there are any failure, then the subsequent actions are taken up. Apart from this concern management, we introduce the legal module. This is also the part of the e-governance. Legal module, basically what happens, it is actually some the official machinery should not misuse the power. That was our main point, because sometimes what happens, the fake notices they can issue, they can destroy the file, but it cannot be accounted to threaten the industry, or maybe put a pressure on industry, or maybe some other pressures they can do it. Now it's completely legal model. Whatever the notices you issue the industry, and it should be on through this model only. Whatever the reply you get it, that is also through this model, so that it is protected and the transparency is ensured. So the power is not misused by the officers. So that is the main purpose for this one. And apart from that, all waste management we brought on the web. So web-based model is there. All kind of waste, liquid waste, solid waste, even e-waste, hazardous waste, hazardous manifest also we have introduced in the online. So that in a single click we can understand how much water quality or what is the water quality we can know, and how much is discharged we know, and what are the pollution levels we know. The same way for the liquid waste and other waste also. So apart from that, the regular functioning of office also we are moving into the e-office. Then the next level what we did, I think we went for the blockchain technology for putting up all consent on blockchain. So across the globe, anybody wants to look at the consent of the any industry, they can open our web and they can see that their consent is actually valid or not valid. So this ensures the more security for the industry. So these are the new initiatives on the environmental governance we are introduced, and I think we are looking at more initiatives in future also.
Fantastic. It's heartening to see that how much IT and e-governance is being used in your organization, and which is very, very important to create your awareness about pollution among the citizens, and also industry is also aware that because of them, how much pollution is being created and what are the steps they have to take to mitigate that. So if you look at one of the common questions which everyone as a citizen is seeing is that one of the issues around pollution levels in the times of COVID-19. And it was widely reported in the TV and the papers that pollution levels decreased. So are there specific studies which show that how much pollution in the air pollution, water pollution, and other pollutions, how much it's actually decreased, and how it was measured, and how much long this decrease will be sustained actually after the lockdown is over? Yeah.
During this COVID situation, actually it's a pandemic, and entire world is under distress, we can say, because most of the industries are losing and unemployment situations are rising. But the environment is improving basically in this period. And MPCB has conducted thorough study on all angles: air, water, as well as waste management. So air pollution in certain part of the Maharashtra reduced to almost 50%. And certain part of the bigger cities, even including Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, Aurangabad, these cities also, we can see that the air pollution gone down up to 40% in certain pockets. So it has gone, because the most important factors in the main cities are actually transportation, that contributes almost 30% of the pollutants in the cities. So that is one major impact which we could able to see. And the second is that because of the non-operation of the industries and non-operations of the many of the establishments or maybe the construction projects, and we could able to find the water also very good improvement. And because we have the location of almost 250 locations for the water monitoring. Last 2 months study on water monitoring shows that the very good improvement in the water quality also. That's another important. And the reduction in the waste. And the last 2 months data shows that almost 30% reduction in all kind of waste. So this actually gives the benchmark how we can improve our environment much better way. This study has been conducted. Now we actually discussed with the IIT Bombay and NEERI to bring in a lot of technical input how we can strengthen the monitoring and the mitigation mechanisms.
And if you look at that, the unlock period has started. We are in unlock 1.0. Like, are you seeing the change again of the pollution increasing now?
Yes, certainly that is true, because of the industrial operations back. Because when we look at Maharashtra at the time of COVID situations, almost 15,000 industries were operating. Because that's the that all essential goods industries and some of the actually industries which supplies raw material as well as the logistics. So those industries was running. In that situation only we could able to find almost 50% reductions. In that situation, if you see that when industry operations start and the pollution levels also increases. But when you look at it, the major actually greenhouse gases pollutions are emitted by the power sector. Power sector actually was operating during the lockdown period. So that gives a clear-cut message that how much contribution exactly from the power sector. So when you take away other essential goods industries, if you see that the power sector is the major contributor for the greenhouse gases, it is a proven, though the theoretical or maybe mathematical calculations have been done earlier, how much calculation, it is then the best example the COVID situation has given. Apart from that, the new industrial situation happens, it increases in the both ambient air also and the water pollutions also. And moreover, what happens, we get immediate shock to the ambience, because when the industry starts quickly, then their residual waste also comes to the ambient in all of a sudden. So it starts with the little air pollutions, then it goes into moderate curve basically.
And if you look at the overall awareness among citizens, the awareness is like in the last few years has increased sharply, and people are actually looking at their mobile phones for level of air pollution, how much it is, and why it is increasing, all that stuff. So, are you like your organization? What are the steps being planned for combating air pollution itself? If you can talk about that.
Yeah. Air pollution is the major problem for the entire country. If you look at it, the particulate matter as well as SOx and NOx, these are the major pollutants we discuss. Apart from that, there are VOCs are there, almost 53 components of VOCs are there. That's also can be measured basically. Some places VOC also create nuisance. For example, benzene, toluene, toluene in the highly urbanized cities. If you see in Mumbai, you see that the background level is almost 6 to 10, which is not permittable. It's when it is 0.5, it is almost at the level of 6 or 8. It's a very high background of the VOCs. This is the situation in this one. Whereas when compared to the Delhi and other northeastern states or northern states, if you see, the Maharashtra have a moderate pollutions level when compared to those areas, because we have the natural flushing mechanisms. So in that sense, Maharashtra have the very comparatively in the national level, it's much better. And moreover, looking at the air monitoring level, actually we have the sector-wise approaches. For example, the coal handling industries are there. So energy, power industries, we deal with it separately. How do they have to handle the coal, and how they can go for the better quality of the coal, and how they can go for mitigating the this one sulfur dioxide and other thing. And there are other strategy for the industries are those who use the boilers, whether they are going for the clean fuels. For example, we are trying to force 3 industrial estates like Taloja is there and Kalyan Dombivli is there, and we have the Tarapur in 3 important industrial estates having a more than we can say around close to 10,000 industries, and majority of them are having the boilers and chemical industries. There we are trying pushing hard to adapt them very quickly to the natural gases, so that the coal-based system will completely take away from this industrial this one. And the challenge here is that cost is a big challenge here, quick adoptions, but industries are now progressing, and I hope that in future maybe another 5 to 10 years all the industry may migrate to the clean fuels. So this urban nearby urban areas, they will move out from the coal-based boilers. So that is one strategy we are adopting. And the third strategy, we are also encouraging the biomass-based fuels. So some of the industries are adopting, but only the thing is that we have to ensure that the continuous availability of the biomass-based fuels. That's the biggest challenge. So we need to increase the program for that also in the supply side. That's what we are also working with the suppliers, who they can give the continuous supply of the biomass-based fuels. That's one strategy we are looking at. And I think otherwise the most important factors for the thing is transportation. And the government of India is again thinking working on how to go for the scrapping the old vehicles. That policy yet to come. And also how can put up the system. Suppose if you see that all vehicles, or how many millions of vehicles have been scrapped in India, it can be brought back to as a recycle and can be brought back to all the resources. For example, steels which uses, rubber which uses, these are actually the big resources which we can put back into the system. So that is circular economy can work on that actually. So government of India is coming up with policy. Once it comes, I think we will work on that also.
You have talked about the circular economy, and it is a new concept which is being discussed widely and globally. So if you can like enlighten our viewers that what it is all about, how it helps.
Yeah, circular economy is basically how the waste can be bring back into the system. For example, if you take the plastic waste, we have almost 1200 tons per day the plastic waste is generated. And most of them, if you see our databases, almost around 60% or 80% close to be collected back. And these plastics actually again recycle and put into the systems. So it has the value chains, as also it gives the employment opportunity and also economic progressions. So that is how this system is work. If you take other waste also, even if you take the solid waste, except this one, and solid waste also have the how energy recovery can be done, or maybe composting can be done, and this again brought back into the value chain circle. So that's how this circular economy works, and we are actually encouraging, board is encouraging to put up this kind of things. And basically we want to introduce the strong EPR system, external producer responsibility, so that this circular economy actually works. With that, we have actually one online based model we introduced with in the Pune corporations, how we can track EPR, the extended producer responsibility, so that the material which actually they sent to the market, for example plastic, they are sent to the market, how it is actually coming back to the system, how it is being collected, how it is being recycled, and how it is again used in the system. So that is complete a tracking system, online monitoring tracking system. We developed a pilot mode in the Pune, and it is working. And when we were working of this method, that time the government of India has not released their EPR policy, but recently they have published a draft, and our systems almost matching to them. I think this will help the entire state and even the entire country to bring how the EPR model can be brought into the online mechanism.
And another question is about water pollution. That industrial water is a big pollution source, and a lot of pollution which goes into the rivers or lakes is because of industrial water, and because of that, a lot of agriculture produce is also affected. So, if you can talk about that, how is your state dealing with this situation, issue of industrial water? Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of, I think water pollution, if you look at it, and looking at the industrial strength of Maharashtra, we generate almost 400 MLD of industrial effluent every day. And almost 40% we are forcing them to take it back to the system. Whether they can use it for the secondary purpose, or if they can use it for the process purpose, they can use it. And that is one thing. And second important policy we are just adopting is that the ZLD system, basically zero liquid discharge. If it possible industry and viable for them, they can adopt the zero liquid discharge systems. In that, they will bring the reverse osmosis technique and the multiple effect evaporators. Basically they are now as a present technology available. So industry puts that and use the salt and water, whatever, it's back to the this one. The salt which is used, maybe if they can use, they can use it, or they can send it for the hazardous waste things. But most of the industries are adopting, the bigger industries which they are have the good economic strength to handle it, because it's little cost of highly cost. So small industry is very difficult. So but bigger industries are adopting. And the smaller industries, Maharashtra Pollution Control Board came up with the policy that to make a pilot mode in some of the industrial estate, putting up the reverse osmosis and multiple effect evaporator, so that that technology can be proven for the smaller industries, and that can be taken for future also. So this is how we are dealing with the industrial effluents. When you look at the domestic sewage, we almost have Maharashtra generates 10,000 MLD of close to 10,000 MLD of domestic sewage. So what we thought that out of this, we are enforcing that at least 60% of the domestic sewage recycled water can be used back. Now what happened, maybe the future, we may get a good water also, may not get fresh water continuously also, but this 10,000 MLD can be treated and bring it to the back to the system. So we are trying to, last time the board also decided to have one pilot plant, so that the domestic sewage water can be treated into the level of drinking water. So that plan we have, maybe in the, we will pilot one plant and we will try to bring it to the society that we can use this water for the drinking purpose. So if that can be cracked and the mindset of the people can slowly change, see, imagine that 10,000 mld of water we are just draining out, and the natural resource we are exploiting more and more. So that can be saved. So this is how our strategy, and we are working on it.
And if you can talk about your strategy to deal with the solid waste.
Yeah, solid waste, I think we had a very good, strong collaboration with, now we are continuing with the strong collaboration with the Urban Development Department. And see, you know that Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has given great push to the solid waste management. Now the almost 50% of the cities in Maharashtra is putting up the efficient method of disposing solid waste, collection as well as the treating the solid waste. And I can say that maybe another 2 to 3 years, I think almost all the cities will come up with the better infrastructure on treating solid waste. That is one thing. Second is that the financing is not the biggest issue in this area, because of the government of India and state government is giving top priority to this, and this will be taken away. The major point is the legacy waste. Legacy waste is piled across Maharashtra. We have identified all the sites. Almost more than 200 sites have been already been identified, and we have charted out how the legacy waste can be removed and the lands can be brought back to the proper dealing of the solid waste. I think in maybe another 2 to 3 years, solid waste problem may be tackled very effectively. And now we have to focus on the rural solid waste mechanism. Basically, in another 5 years term, even if you take at the longest period, the 5 years terms, all cities will have the robust infrastructure to deal with solid waste. But the rural, we have to go for some cluster level approach, because still 40 to 45% of the people lives in rural India and even rural Maharashtra. We need to have some cluster level approach to deal with those waste.
And there have been like discussions about waste to energy. If you can like utilize our waste and convert it into energy, and reuse of waste into making of roads or any other bricks and stuff like that. So if you can talk about those issues.
Yeah, solid waste, actually basically we thought about also, and we were had a very long discussion on the how to energy recovery from this one. Basically the power generation from the solid waste. But in Maharashtra could not able to take up this one because of this long monsoon time period, and more water and organic content, and which is not giving that much of energy efficiency during that process. That's how this is not taking up much. Instead of that, actually Maharashtra adopted policy of going for the composting. So the composting policy is now being adopted largely. Maybe in only few corporations are working on the energy recovery, the power generation from the solid waste. Like Thane is working on, and I think Kalyan Dombivli and another 2-3 corporations is working on. Even Mumbai is also working on, but still it has not been materialized. Energy recovery, but in future they may adopt. But at present, the policy is widely going in Maharashtra is a composting.
Composting is right now happening, and as we discussed about pollution, like there is another related issue which is discussed globally, and it is now also being discussed in India, is about climate change. So how do you see that your department looks at this issue of the climate change, resilient cities are being talked about, resilient villages are being talked about. So like if you can talk about that, how is your department looking at these issues and thinking about working on these issues? Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the climate change, it's a big jargon, and it's talked across the globe. Then I think that started with Montreal Protocol with the CFC. Then it has came in 1997 with the Kyoto Protocol with the legal bindingness with across the globe countries. And many only that Kyoto Protocol, when it's took that only it's covered only 20-25% of the pollution greenhouse gases, basically not entire globe. And later, even in the Cancun Agreement or maybe Copenhagen Agreement, if you look at it, it's not much delivered. But whereas in the Paris Agreement, I think entire globe thought about and covered almost 99% of the greenhouse gases in the globe. So the Paris Agreement has come up with the different policy changes from legal bindingness to the maybe bindingness along with the states determined contributions, basically nationally determined contributions. These two aspects brought in. So that given the big support to the developing countries, basically like India. So with that, actually, in even 2008, if you government of India came up with the national action plan on climate change, that went on only the sectoral aspects. Basically, they identified the 8 sectors, for example, power sector, industry sector, agriculture, water, forest. These are the sectors they identified and went on that particular sectors and trying to mitigate and adapt on climate change. But in those policies documents, they have not given much role in the states, and because being India being a union of states, states' role is more important to mitigate and adapt into the climate change. So slowly now states also in roping into the system. In Maharashtra, you know that Maharashtra came up with the change in the department itself. It is was a environment department. Now it has changed into environment and climate change. So the new ministry and new government taking more interest on climate change. I hope that the state policy, because every states have the state action plan for climate change, but it's not much effective and more interdisciplinary or more sectoral one. But this change maybe will improve. Maybe the new Paris Agreement concept when percolated to the state level, it may give the boost to the states to work on it. But it is having the negative impact that whether for the developing countries, that whether we look at the cost of the productivity or poverty elevation, or look at the cost of putting more pollution control mechanism and mitigating the greenhouse gases. So how they deal with the cost effective technologies and availability of the resources is a big challenge.
And let me take some questions from the Q&A section here, and you can also see it on your screen. That there are there is a question that there are a number of NGOs and local residents bodies which keep the your organization posted on pollutants which are released in the rivers in the state. How do you address these citizen complaints and citizen queries regarding pollutions? This is a question by Priya in Chandigarh.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have the actually our
Ravendiran.
online portal to see the complaint redressal mechanism. Basically, we when we receive the complaints or either from the phone or orally, whatever it is, our we have the response team. Basically, every regions we have the response team. So generally they inspect and we generally take the samples basically to check whether the pollution is there or not. Once the sampling is done, then we'll identify the proper source, and the source mitigation we start generally. So in that sense, if it's a industrial pollutions, it's very easy for us. For example, suppose particular industry is emitting or discharging the effluent, then we have the quick actions and we can take a quick action. Suppose in case of other kind of pollutions, for sometimes you will find some the natural VOCs comes. So you will feel that more water is coming from that, but you will not be able to find the which is the source. In the urban areas you find that sometimes you will have some more SO2 is there. Some places you feel more yeah, oxides of nitrogen you feel sometimes. So it's all some of the process also natural process comes in because of the uh, different kind of mechanism, or maybe we can say different kind of environment in the cities. So those kind of things, when you could not able to identify the proper source, it takes time to deal with the complaints. Or if you could able to identify the source, we are quickly reacting and quickly acting on that particular situations.
Sure. And there is another question which is around that because of the pollution control board being a regulatory body, there are always disputes and legal cases perhaps happening. So, uh, so how do you handle these issues?
See, it's of course being a regulatory authority, we have to deal with the cases because whatever the actions we take, there is always the challenge they can go to the court. Now the NGT is there, last 10 years NGT is there, and it's especially deal with the environmental laws. So it is now a number of cases also increasing. And apart from that, there are two ways we can look at it. Generally, the regulatory mechanism we act is on two principles basically. One is on polluter pay principle, another one is the precautionary principles. When you say that polluter pay principle, if anybody pollute, then he is responsible to give the damage for it. He has to face the damage for it. So that's how the polluter pay principle says. And precautionary principles, when you want to put up some system, where if as the system has the potential to pollute, and you have to take some precautions for that, we'll have some liability to do that. So this is how we deal with these two situations. And third, actually, in the recent past, the NGT and the Supreme Court's coming up with the new concept of environmental compensations, where the pollutions are more, and it is actually the damage is more for both the ambient as well as the citizens or maybe the living creatures. Then they think that the environmental compensation has to be paid under the concept of the polluter pay principles. So industry face or maybe the polluter face a huge financial burden on it. So nowadays this concept is rising. So legal cases we have, yes, we have to deal it, and we will be dealing it, and there will be more number of cases. It's possible in the future, because the more awareness is coming up, more I think non-governmental organizations are very vocally fighting against the climate change and the pollution. So we will be dealing with that in future also, I think.
Sure. And there is another question, which is that there is one waste to energy plant in Solapur, municipal corporation, functional for more than 3 to 4 years. This is a question by Mr. Anil, and he asking that why the same is not being adopted, and uh, why is biodegradable is being preferred. And the additional question is that can you throw some light on the advantages and disadvantages of using a plant like this based to energy versus biodegradable plant?
See, waste to
Ravendiran, sir.
energy is the right options when your wastes are properly segregated with you have the high energy content in your waste, and then you can go. The biggest challenge we face initially, the policy was not there when the power is generated from the solid waste, and what terms you will buy the power, and how the power purchasing company or power selling company, how they will purchase and sell it. So that was the initial policy was not there, and recently policy has been introduced by the government of India. So now that takes care of it. And the second is that when you look at the waste, there are two angles of looking at it. One is that to dispose it or to generate energy to it. If you look at it that we need to dispose in a scientific way, and you don't look at the cost of energy and the recovery of the cost. When you look at it, the waste, I want to make a energy, then you look at it, that's a cost benefit analysis, and you will go end up in calculating that it's not giving the return. And you are forgetting completely that you are disposing the way in a scientific way. So that also have the cost to it. And whatever the pollution it is going to create, that also having the cost. But most of the time, the policy advices was there. They were initially the policy advice was like that you have to go for the cost benefit analysis. When you go for energy recovery plant, then you should go for only the energy, whatever it generates, it give the return to you, so that you will not end up in losing it. So that's how the initial thought process. Some of the corporation took it. For in Delhi, there are two plants I saw, and in Jabalpur I saw the plant is working. Those are when you look at the waste only on the scientific disposal, definitely the energy recovery plant will work successfully. When you look at it as a only this is a you want to gain energy out of it, definitely it will not work. So you need to have some gap arrangement. So that has to be borne by the either local body or state government. Unless the local body took it that whatever the gap we will bear the cost, then definitely the energy plant will work in India.
Sure. I think interesting perspective you are given to the whole question. Thanks for that. And there is a bit more, I will say, controversial question, but I'm still asking you that someone has asked here that Mr. Hemendra has asked that MPCB has forfeited bank guarantees from industries worth crores of rupees. How does MPCB use this fund for the benefit of environment?
Yeah, see, that's the right questions actually. It's not only the forfeiture of the bank guarantee, we also collect consent fee. That is how board is completely self autonomy. Government does not receive even single penny from the government, not even single rupee from the government of Maharashtra. So it's completely self-sustainable. So government actually get the resources from the consent fee or authorization fee, which we generally grant, and also kind of some penalty like bank guarantee forfeiture or some things. When we receive the money, some kitty of money we receive, then we spend the money for two major things. One is this, that we will put up our monitoring mechanism. That is most important thing. Second is that the running of entire establishment of the board. Third is that what are the mitigation new technologies coming or new research and development which we want to do, or maybe what are the contribution which can give to the industrial estates. For example, one industrial estate want to give the put up a CTP, and the board always contribute certain amount to that, put a common CTP, basically common effluent treatment plant for the industry. If they put, board always contribute. Those kind of environmental infrastructure also board spends, and this is how we spend basically to put up monitoring network and to put up environmental infrastructure. That's the major expenses we do, and running of the establishment.
Sure. And another question is from Hyderabad, and the question is by Mr. Sudhir, and he asked that how serious is the concern of effluent going to Maharashtra rivers? How is MPCB handling this situation? How are you going to control the effluents going in the rivers?
Yeah, I can say very proudly we have almost 12,500 industries or effluent generating industry, and only and almost two or three industries permitted to discharge its effluent after treatment with a proper standard into the river. Not other industries are allowed. These three industries have given permission almost 40-50 years back. So only three industries are allowed, out of which now two industries are not functional. Only one industry is functioning. Government also thinking to that putting the industry that it's a time you cannot discharge into the natural stream. So that's how we are dealing. So apart from that, you see that majority of the industry affluents which happens in the coastal area, we have the more chemical industries in this area. For example, Tarapur, Kalyan Dombivli, Taloja, Mahad, and Lote. These are the major effluent generating industry. These are located in the coastal area. So after the treatment, these are being discharged into the sea, where the dilution is more and the impact is very less. If this industry is located in the interior of Maharashtra, then it would have been missed that many of the rivers have been polluted already. So that situation is not there. So the industrial planning, which is done almost 50-60 years back in Maharashtra, was well taken care of this kind of issues, so that Maharashtra is not that much facing the problem. But still I can say, because of our monitoring mechanism is very high, it is very easy to find out which stretch of the river is polluted, because we have almost 250 sample collecting spots. So it is easy to identify this river stretches, and we can go for immediately correct the polluting activities.
Sure. And another question is by Mr. Adarsh. He is asking that what can be the possible measures that can be taken to get rid of the legacy waste?
See, legacy waste, I think many of the states, when last time in January, we had a NGT meeting. Actually, NGTS, I asked the Honorable Chief Secretary and the Maharashtra Urban and Environment Department Secretaries to be personally present and explain. When our Chief Secretary and Urban and our secretaries were present, and they explained how the Maharashtra is dealing with the legacy waste. See, now I can proudly say that Maharashtra is actually setting an example for the entire country. Till now, you see that almost 27 million tons of legacy waste have been already mined away. So I think that's a big this one, and we have the identified almost 200 places of this one, and we basically go for biomining. Biomining, we take out the inerts and we take out the manure separately. So inerts has been sent to the landfill, and manure is used for the further maybe for agriculture or horticulture purposes or land upgradations, basically, which is used for it. But that is actually, and we adopted that how the technology can be used, and we have standardized all tender forms. We standardized the I think urban development put up a lot of energy into that, how the tender mechanism should be there, how the quantity should be calculated, everything has been properly put in. So the local bodies taken away very quickly this one, and in last 1.5 years, I am telling the quantum is huge, which I think you cannot find in any other states. So the NGT was impressed and asked other state to follow this mega protocol. So we have put all our necessary document in our web portal. Anybody want to look at it, they can have the document and they can strictly follow the same line. It's easy to, no need to go for preparing your tender document again, preparing for your other bid document and everything. It will take a lot of time. So it's easy, and price discovery has been done in large way in Maharashtra. So you know that what is the price discovery per metric ton. So the negotiation is very easy now.
Excellent. And another question is that if you look at the overall business scenario, the government has been promoting something called ease of doing business, so that industries don't have a problem in starting or running a business. And many times the environment and the pollution department is seen as a hurdle in implementing ease of doing business, because it is like another set of regulations, approvals, and inspections. Like all the industries are afraid of inspections. Like there was a term called, and still a term called Inspector Raj, which is being considered as a hurdle for Indian industries not being able to grow. So, being the member secretary of the pollution department in Maharashtra, what's your view on this issue?
Yeah, that's good. I think I'm very happy to answer this question. The reason is that ease of doing business, if you look at it, Maharashtra boards last 3 years, I think 2 to 3 years, it's getting 100 out of 100. So that's the best thing that I can say, that my mechanism is very well put up, so that I am getting score of the government of India 100 out of 100. So that means that our it's not a hurdle to the industries promotions or industries running, but it is definitely we'll check the environment way, how the industry deal with the environment, because the same industry, suppose many of the foreign industries which is coming, they can maintain the same standard in the other countries. Why not they can maintain in India? That's my biggest questions. If you want to put up industry in US or in Europe, you are going to the particulate matter standard of 30. Why not in India? You need only 150 of particulate matter. So that's the thing. So they can put up the system, but only the cost and time, and the industry look at it. But still, as a ease of doing business, we are actually a very pro to industries. Basically, in the terms of promoting industries, we don't keep pending of any industries consent or anything. So we quickly try to dispose it, and our redressal mechanism is also very quick. And since our board is having an independent chairman now, so our frequent meetings and frequent policy decisions are very quick. So I think this is a very positive of the industry. And another important things in this question I should mention, that last year CPCB conducted the performance of the all boards in the country. So the Maharashtra stood first in performance. So I can say proudly, so that our MPCB is not just a hurdle, and it's promoting basically industry with a check on environment, definitely.
Fantastic. Good to know that all over the country the MPCB was ranked first, and it is a great thing to have. And there is another question which is specific that to the sugar industries, that sugar mills are polluting the rivers as it is normally known. So how effective is MPCB in controlling them, and also what incentives is government offering for production of ethanol instead of liquor production?
Yeah, I think the policy is well set in both government of India level as well as the state level. So we actually in a faster clearance, because we identified almost 89 industries in Maharashtra, they can go for immediate production of ethanol. So we had a meeting with the government of Maharashtra at the, I think senior level meeting has happened at the government level. So the industry department and the environment department and other related departments identified almost 89 industries which they can go for ethanol production immediately. So we put a fast track systems. Then if they apply for immediately want to go for ethanol, we are ready to give it immediately. So I don't find any industry will face the challenges first. Second thing is that your question is that polluting sugar industries are polluting. Possible there are one or two industries. Always not all industries perform up to the mark, we can say, but it happens. Very strange incidents happens because 2-3 incidents in every year it happens, because when you go for the new season, the industry clears. When they clears, sometimes they, what happen, instead of treating it, the washing and other cleaning, they are directly discharged into the streams. So that gives actually the more pollutions, because of the more residues and the more waste accumulated, that gives more pollutions. Now we are sensitizing the sugar industries also not to discharge those kind of when you do for preparation for next season, they should not discharge this into the streams directly. And I think we had a long sensitization workshop with all sugar industries. Maybe after this COVID situation is little eased, then we will have one more discussion before the next season. So I think these incidents may be reduced in future.
And there's another question related is that someone has asked here that uh, industrialization and pollution control are mutually contradictory. How do you keep a fine balance here?
See, yeah, it's very clear. If you look at the energy use and your better living standard, when you consume more energy, you are living in the better standard of living. You treated in a better standard of living. So that if you are, that means you are using more energy, you are more industrialized. And the thing is that, yeah, of course, you have the better standard of living with more energy use, but whether your ambient is supporting your sustainability for long, maybe you may be happy that your next generation to next generation whether will be happy with the same. So the environmental responsibility comes in that. It has been accepted across the globe. It's not that that's what the SDC also brought in, and also this Paris Agreement also brought in these two concepts. Why we have to give the cost to the environment. Unless we give cost to the environment will not sustain you. Maybe maybe this century, maybe 50 years, or maybe this century may be the good for you. Maybe the next century, if the temperature increases more than 2, may not be the Mumbai will not be there, or maybe some other many of the states will not be there across the globe. So now actually everybody realized that we have to pay cost to the environment. So I think there will be a different changes, and I think even looking at the business also from the industrial angle, they will also work on this environment angle.
And since you mentioned about Europe, comparison to Europe in some aspects, we all see that the standard of pollution control is much stringent in those countries, in the European countries, the richer ones especially, and compared to us. So, do you and like you mentioned about the CPCB also, like I think that the CPCB has been established for more than 25 years, I suppose now. Uh, and various states have been having boards for long years, but still our pollution levels in our country in all aspects, whether air, water, or um, solid waste, are much higher compared to the European or the American cities. So, are you is there a natural tolerance for pollution in India? Like, as citizens, are we tolerating? Like, we are used to it? Any inputs on it? I think we have lost the speaker here. Some connection issues. Uh, so, sorry,
Yeah.
we had lost you in the.
Lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just a question that you also mentioned about such a Bharat Abhiyan, which really pushed the whole focus on cleanness, hygiene, and my question is that are we as a society, the Indian society, has a very high tolerance to pollution. We don't react to it as much. We don't worry about it too much. Is it that situation, or there is something else, Ravindran ji?
Yeah, but when before I joined this post, I was already in the same concept that we don't react to the situation. It's not like that. Every citizen is reacting to the situation and they are very sensitive to the pollutions. Because after coming into this department last 1.5 years, my experience is that everybody is much aware about pollutions. Everybody is much sensitive to the pollutions also. The most important is that the putting up the infrastructure and bringing the standard, because our priorities are too much. Still now we have to feed more than 30 crores people, and in the below poverty line is the biggest challenge for us. So we have to divert resources to give the balance of development. That's how the government faces a lot of problems. So whether we can give a food and water to a particular shelter to particular person, or can I give a concrete road to particular persons? That is the challenge we have. So to balancing it, it takes time, but industry but in India it's progress is very good. Maybe in another 2 decades I think we will also come to the level of I think European standards. I don't find any challenge into that.
And I think there is an interesting question which has been asked twice, and I think I should ask you that. Can you elaborate on the Maharashtra Star Rating Program and how it has been helpful in the state towards fighting pollution?
Yeah, Maharashtra star rating program is actually a couple of years back. We started with that to give this rating to the, basically it is for the environmental performance of the industries. The industries which performs much better on environmental angle, starred more. So we'll have the, I think, 5-star category, and based on their performance, we'll give it to the stars to the industry. And initially we started with around oddly 150 industry. I think now we almost working close to almost 400 industries. And basically high polluting industries we have taken up, and we regularly take samples and we'll see the performance of the industries. Then after their performance we'll give the star rating in every year. So this is how the program is. And if this is actually now other states also trying to adopt these programs, probably after maybe a year, I think end of this year we will do the assessment, and we will find out how best we can use it and how we can implement this star rating into some sort of index mechanisms, so that indexing of the industry can be done. Because high polluting industries, we have almost 17 categories industries. We is all close to 500 industries. Those are actually, those 500 industries emitting almost 70% of the pollutions. So we are targeting only those 500 industries in the first phase, and then slowly we'll go to the next level of industries.
And another question which is looks interesting is that how can jobs be created by environment department so that there is a community participation to save environment?
Jobs can be created putting up more environmental infrastructure. We can force the local bodies to put more environmental, because we have the huge gap in dealing with that. I talked about in the I think one of my initial times questions when I addressed, I talked about only the urban waste management and urban liquid and solid waste management, the quantified. But 40% of the still rural liquid and solid waste have the potential to treat, and that can create a more employment opportunities. That's the one thing. And second thing is, when you look at it, the industries also need to employ the skilled persons to deal with this kind of mechanisms, basically pollution control mechanism. In that also there are large scope, because when we do take a review of some of the industries, we find that the persons are not skilled and not having adequate knowledges of dealing with the pollutions. So those areas also have the gray, and industry can push those things also to put a more skilled manpower. So basically environment department has a high potential to create more skilled as well as non-skilled workforce.
I think there's another interesting question, which is almost the last question. I think this is about e-waste. What is the status of e-waste compliance in Maharashtra?
E-waste status in Maharashtra is very tricky when I say, because I think we have almost 60 to 65% of the e-waste being handled by non-organized sectors. So it is being collected and handled, but it is not handled by the organized sector, so which is not brought into the account properly. So that's what we are biggest challenge now. We are working on it, how to put on the track so that all the 100% of the e-waste can be covered in the monitoring mechanism, as well as the disposal is properly done or not. So it's a big challenge for us, and we are working on it.
And in the end, I think I should thank you that you have elaborated on almost all the aspects or a lot of aspects of the pollution control mechanisms which are happening in those state. And in the end, I want to ask you that you have been in the several conferences of Elets, where the physical conferences we have done in Tirupati, we have done in Kalyan, probably we collaborated with you, and right now we are interacting online. So your inputs and suggestions about for our team at Elets, that how we can contribute more to the society.
I'm always happy to be with the Elets as a partner, because the team is so the excellent team I have ever seen. Till now, I have had an opportunity to work with many of the team members on different agencies also, and I find that this is one of the best platform to bring out the national and state level issues to the public. And moreover, the publications comes from you also well reach, and the discussions which the team takes are maybe the more pertinent issues of the government, and the thought process are brought into the on the table, and the discussions are well organized discussions, and we always take away many things from the conferences. That's what I think. Even Tirupati conference got a very good input to me, to a lot of insights to me when I joined just as a collector there. And the second, when I just joined as a Kalyan commissioner, I had a very good opportunity to work with you. That actually the conference scaled me from, I can say that in the initial smart city this one competition, we could not able to win Kalyan. When I joined, then we had a very good conference. That conference gave good support and knowledge, so that the Kalyan Dombivli could able to figure in rank 2 in the national level. So that was the how the team works, and how the knowledge you bring on table is the biggest achievements and the biggest things. And finally, I think this also is another way of looking at, because I was trying to engage with you in when I was in the skills, because that is one of the important sector for the country. Just trying, but because of the busy schedules, I could not able to make it. But still, this environment is another biggest horizon to do. I think here we'll continue our partnership. I hope that team is the best team I ever seen, and the knowledge and experience you bring to the organizations are more valuable and more welcoming. And I am really thanks to you and your entire team.
Great words of appreciation. Thanks for Ravendiran ji. We are really happy that you liked our team and liked our work, and thanks for all the encouragement and appreciation. And I thank all the audience here who are watching us live on Zoom and also on Facebook. I will request you that if you like the efforts which the Maharashtra government is taking in the pollution control, and if you have liked this interaction, please like and share this video on Facebook and YouTube, so that it reaches to a larger number of people and there is more awareness about environmental issues. So with this, I thank Ravendiran ji. बहुत धन्यवाद रविंद्र जी, and namaskar to you.
Thank you very much, and thanks a lot, and for Elets and its team and all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.